Hello, my B-side queens. Those of us who have lived long enough to know that growing older and growing wiser don't always travel the same road. Today I want to share something that stopped me cold. I'm blessed with adult children who push me to think in ways that I wouldn't have found on my own. And if you're fortunate, your children expand your thinking, and if you're very fortunate, they illuminate something that you didn't even know was dark. Recently, I was talking with my oldest son, Bo. We were talking about those impossible moments, the ones where you know you need to move forward, but something deep in you keeps reaching backwards. And right in the middle of the conversation, he said something that I have never heard before. He said, "Mom, sometimes we function in a state of delusional damage." That phrase landed in me like a stone in still water. I looked it up. Clinical jargon defines a delusion as a belief held firmly even when the evidence says otherwise. And Webster's dictionary defines damage as harm, injury, loss. And in that stillness, something became clear. Most of us aren't simply carrying damage. We're carrying damage and we're writing a story around it. A story we keep believing all long time after it stopped becoming true. Someone betrayed us years ago. The damage was real, but the delusion becomes no one can ever be trusted again. We failed at something that mattered. The damage was real, but the delusion becomes I'm a failure. Someone rejected us. The damage was real, but the delusion becomes I'm not worthy of love. You see the difference? The damage happened. The delusion is what we decided about ourselves because it happened. And if we're not careful, those delusions become the walls that we live inside. The woman was told she wasn't smart enough. She becomes afraid to start the business. The woman whose marriage becomes convinced her best years are behind her. The woman who was overlooked begins to believe she has nothing left to offer. But the evidence says something different. B-side queens, we have survived things that should have broken us, and we have learned things that no classroom could ever teach. We carry wisdom that only time, suffering, and grace can produce, and yet some of us are still operating from conclusions drawn by a younger, wounded version of ourselves. A version who didn't know what we know now, a version that hadn't yet discovered her own strength. What if the problem isn't your age? What if it isn't the opportunity or the circumstances? What if the problem is simply an old belief that no longer deserves a seat at your table? Today I want to invite you to ask yourself one honest question. What story am I still telling about myself? Am I still respecting myself? And the harder question, is it true? Not is it familiar, not is it comfortable, not have I believed it for so long that it feels like fact, is it actually true? Because most of us, what we believe about ourselves will not survive a fair trial. The evidence says that you are resilient. The evidence says that you are still here. The evidence says that you have carried through every season of your life. And if God carried you this far, why on earth would he stop now? My B-side queens, the damage may have been real, but the delusion does not have to remain. It's time for us to retire those stories that no longer serve us, to release the beliefs that no longer fit who we become, to stop introducing ourselves through our wounds and start introducing ourselves through our wisdom. We're simply flipping to the side that was always meant to play. And trust me, there are still some beautiful songs left. Stay on the B-side. The record is not over yet.